Sir John Major has urged Tory MPs to remove Boris Johnson from number 10 immediately. In a letter to Sir Graham Brady, chairman of the 1922 committee, the former Prime Minister wrote, "The proposal for the Prime Minister to remain in office, potentially for up to 3 months, having lost the support of his cabinet, his government and his parliamentary party, is unwise and may be unsustainable."
His comments come as a YouGov poll suggests a majority of voters, 56%, want a caretaker Prime Minister to replace Boris Johnson.
So should Boris leave Downing Street today? We're joined now by former Conservative MP Anne Widdecombe, who says there'll be more disruption for the country if Boris leaves now, and former Special Advisor to Theresa May, Nira Uwajabo, who says no one has confidence in him and he should go. Niro, he's resigned, he's going. Won't there be more disruption for the country if he disappears? After all, it's usual for the outgoing to remain until the new leader's there.
Well, I think it's usual in normal circumstances for the Prime Minister to see off the time, allow the election to take place and allow a new Prime Minister to take over. But I think that the challenge is that the circumstances of his leaving are not quite what you would describe as normal, which is why you see so much concern within the Parliamentary Conservative Party. So I think there are significant challenges ahead. And this is almost like a situation where somebody has been summarily dismissed and then you hand them back the keys to the office. So I think people are concerned about what the Prime Minister might do, what the next 3 months or so might look like, and whether that would mean further disruption.
Anne, I think we may have lost Niro for a moment. We'll try and reconnect up with him in just a moment. Anne, I wonder if we can come to you because obviously you worked with Sir John Major, so you know him very well. And he doesn't mince his words, does he? Saying, you know, that keeping him there is unwise, it may be unsustainable. And I think one of the points that Niro was making, because of the nature of how Boris Johnson is leaving office, all the controversy that surrounded the vote of no confidence, which he passed initially, but then all of those MPs resigning yesterday, that there is a sort of sense that the instability that he brings, it would be better to see him gone sooner rather than later.
No, I don't agree with that. I'm a great admirer of John Major, who I think was a much underestimated Prime Minister. But nevertheless, I think he's got this one wrong. The norm, what always happens, what happened with Cameron, what happened with May, what's happened with previous Prime Ministers, is that if a Prime Minister stands down from office for whatever reason, then he or she oversees the succession, and when that's done, the Prime Minister walks out of Downing Street and that's it. Now, if we don't do it that way this time, you've got all sorts of issues arising. You've got the legitimacy of whoever is put in there. I mean, Boris does at least have a mandate from the electorate, whatever else one might say. You've got the legitimacy of the person who's put in there. You've got to make sure they're not even a candidate in the forthcoming election. And worse still, from my point of view, and this is why I wanted Boris to say, and what I've been saying now for some weeks, is that the country is in a tremendous mess. Not all of the government's making by any means, but it is in a mess with the cost of living and Ukraine and NHS waiting lists. And we need stability. And if you now add on something else, which is, well, you're going to get rid of the Prime Minister, you're going to put somebody else in while you're trying to decide who's going to take over from that person, it's just more instability and not much legitimacy. John Major, I think you've got this one wrong. Boris is going. His opponents have got what they want. He's going. Now let's get on with it.
But what kind of stability can a Prime Minister who's outgoing, that can't make any policies and doesn't have the support of his party or the government, what kind of stability can that bring? And you mentioned Sir John Major. Of course, he had to leave because he was voted out by the country. But, you know, they're very different personalities, Sir John Major and Boris Johnson, aren't they? And what people are saying is that Boris doesn't appear to have given up completely having some kind of presence. There was even a suggestion that having him there means that he would still be trying to promote himself. And that doesn't give stability either.
Well, the fact is that whoever is there is not going to be able to make policies. They don't say, you know, Boris is going to be unstable because he can't make policy. Whoever's there can't. We're now going to have a period of complete policy drift and stop because there's nobody with the legitimacy now to start taking those decisions. Now, what I'm looking for is what we've always had, which is the continuity until the change is actually decided. And
what about the speed of that change then? Because that's critical, isn't it? What can be done about that, Anne?
Well, probably nothing. If the party had a fit of maturity and were to coalesce around one candidate, as it did in 2005 around Michael Howard, then you're right. You know, we could get on with this. But I don't see that happening. We've got heaven knows how many leadership candidates already in the ring. So therefore, I'm afraid it's going to be prolonged. That's why I didn't really want him to go, because I could see this period coming up at just the wrong time. And what is more, you know, from the party's point of view, I mean, from the country's point of view, it's awful. But from the party's point of view as well, it's got a general election looming and it doesn't know what its policies are.
Well, let's speak to Nero, because Anne makes some good points, doesn't she, Nero? Just with regards to the stability of trying to do this, there is a process that has been done in the past. We had Ian Dale in earlier saying that actually this could be done quite quickly. And in theory, at the end of the next 2 weeks, if we can get down to the last two candidates, if there is a clear candidate, maybe the other one will step down and it could be done in that sort of time frame. Who would you like to see step in as an interim caretaker Prime Minister?
Well, I think a number of the suggestions that have been made is that the Deputy Prime Minister could probably step in, or the party could do something else. Just to say, I think Anne is very right in what she describes in terms of what normally happens. But I think the point is that this has ended in a situation where there is a significant breach, a breakdown in relationship between the Prime Minister and the Parliamentary Conservative Party. And you hear MP after MP from the Conservative Party saying that they are very concerned about what's likely to happen in the interim period. So that is the fact is that is likely to lead to further arguments, further debates, further problems. And I think in the interest of the party, it's probably best to have a clean break. But I'm sure that's discussions that they'll be having all day today.
OK, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you both for joining us this morning.